A new premium SUV that is moving between the segments, also the bestseller of this brand here, and a recent brother to the DS8, the sedan, is now in the SUV styling, the DS7 in the new generation, or as they call it, DS number 7 or numero 7, to make it sound a little bit more exclusive. But how much more exclusive is it actually in exterior, interior with interesting materials, and of course all the technological details in different powertrains? All electric, yes, but also with a petrol, with some mild hybrid. We'll tell you all you need to know with Thomas Nautical Fuel in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with the front. This is the top trim called Etoille. And then you also get this illuminated front grille, only in the top trim, also illuminated DS lettering there, and matrix LED, also standard for this Etoille trim. Vertical, this daytime runner like signature. So the previous generation more had this combustion engine grille. This one looks a little bit more electric, let's take it that way. But as I said, there will still also be a petrol version available. This is a difference to the DS8 model here in the SUV. For example, also in France, they still need the lower weight because the taxation now is more about lower weight of the vehicles. And that's why the normal petrol hybrid will also play a role. Then here on the side, we can see the biggest wheels, 21 inch. And the lodging here is a little bit more complicated, 19 to 21 inch here for the EV version, and it would be 18 to 19 inch for the petrol 48-volt MHEV. You can also see you have these contrasting wheel arches in black. And talking about contrast, so this is palladium gray, this exterior color. And then you have here the contrasting black roof. This is one option. And optional. You can also get a black contrasting front hood. That will also be available. The length is 4.66 m or 183 inches. And this is really interesting and will also mean between segments. So they want to position this car between the compact and the midsize SUV for European taste. So let's say between a BMW X1 and a BMW X3. So this is as an EV, so to speak, battery-wise and almost size-wise, rather a competitor to the Audi Q6 e-tron, BMW iX3, Mercedes GLC EQ, but a little bit shorter, close to the smart #5 Brabus, which we presented to you earlier. But then they want to sell it at the price of an Audi Q3, BMW X1, Mercedes GLA, and so on. So this is their concept. And the design concept is here with this vertical and horizontal mix, crystalline styling of the tail lamps as well. So I think design-wise, they really nailed it. Good-looking SUV with a very unique styling. This is supposed to be now the new French flagship SUV, actually for the whole country. Very interesting. Big lettering, DS Automobile, like Automobile, when I say pronounce it in French, and number 7, that they make it once again a little bit more exclusive. Big, large black contrast in the lower part. And that leads over to the technological details. First of all, if you are here in this highest trim Etoille, you get the DS Active Scan suspension. Could be a German word. Right? So this is like scanning the road in advance and then adapts the suspension to it. This adaptive suspension only for the highest trim. Then this one being the electric version, soon to the petrol, has the charging flap here, driver's side in the rear. Large charging flap, but manual is cool, and it also covers a little bit against the rain. Why not? Too complicated with the AC. They have 7.4, optional 11 kilowatt, optional 22 kilowatt. Come on, just make 22 kilowatt standard and that's it. It's also easier for the factory guys, isn't it? But at least the 22 kilowatt is also available. And DC charging is in 160 kilowatt. Is not the highest peak, but their charging curve is quite consistent. At the end of the day, they say 20 to 80% state of charge in 27 minutes. Still not that much. So you have 10 to 80% state of charge in over 30 minutes. So charging is not the quickest one. However, it does house some large batteries. I can also show you what's under the hood here in the electric version. So battery sizes here at either small battery, 74 kilowatt hours net, or the bigger one, more interesting for sure, 97 kilowatt hours net. And this will be quite interesting, of course, also as for the range. We did a concise range test with the DS8, the sedan brother, which is somewhat better in the CD value, the drag coefficients, but this one here is still quite efficient. It still has a drag coefficient of 0.26. which is actually not too bad. So, and the WLTP, like the official driving range cycle, actually I have to pull twice. I thought I pulled twice, didn't I? Like the BMW styling. There, now it should do it. So, and with the DS8, we could score some realistic motorway range, maximum speed 130 kilometers an hour, 80 miles an hour, 500 kilometers or 300 miles. And we could expect something similar with this one, maybe a little bit less, with the big battery. This one looks like an engine cover, but it is actually the electric version. And the electric version will be available with front-wheel drive only. Acceleration figures both for small and big battery, just under 8 seconds. And there will also be an all-wheel drive version available here for the electric version, which is then at 5.4 seconds in the acceleration figure. Then the petrol engine will of course then be under the hood and will look similar, both exterior and the engine bay. 1.2 liter 3-cylinder with 145 horsepower, and the acceleration figure there is slower than 10 seconds. To me, a little bit undersized for the vehicle. Yes, you have mild hybrid support, 48 volt board net, but still a small engine relatively for the size of the car. Now, super exciting to the interior. First of all, flush door handles. When you press them or open it with the key fob, they come towards you. Then they are actually manual. Quick recap, because it's now finally decided. The Chinese government will forbid flush door handles from 2027, 1st of January already. And the thing is that before, it was the Chinese market that demanded these door handles because like look modern and also flush, aerodynamics, but it doesn't make too big of a difference for aerodynamics. But now then the problem was like, in case of a crash, sometimes they wouldn't be open. They should always come towards you in case of a crash. But yeah, it's always a thing about even better safety. And so all manufacturers that want to sell in China have to rework all the door handles. It's not that I said before, just keep classic door handles, but yeah, sometimes you have to go this way then to end up with the same way once again at the end of the day. Yeah. Just a quick excursion about this one. Then here, door closing sound. That's really solid like that. The integration here of the rear handles is nice. And this is also manual. Also really solid door closing sound. Then inside of the doors, this is here the favorite trim, the Alcantara trim. Yeah, it's really beautiful, and also a thick Alcantara. It's a high quality grade Alcantara as well. You can pick different quality grades there as well. Leatherette in here. This could be a little bit softer for the elbow though. Classic window lever integration, and this is the integration of the door handle. It is like invisible integration, so to speak, and here visible more, like laser cut out for this focal 14-speaker sound system. Inside of the doors, this is not covered, but the lower part, the bottom, is covered with fabric at least, that when you put like a sunglasses case in there, that doesn't fly around. Then DS entry badge and also a high floor mat. This is nice. And here once again more from this Alcantara trim, which would be the favorite trim here always in this navy blue. Then we have the steering wheel, we know it from the DS8, in the Half-Life headcrab design with these force, these headcrab monsters from Half-Life that jump into the face from Gordon Freeman and the professor like this. Yeah. Someone of you brought me to this comment, by the way. It wasn't my idea, so that's why I'm saying it now. Then we have these, hashtag capacitive BS buttons on the steering wheel. They give some kind of feedback at least, but all cool in this navy blue tone. In the base trims and also in the Alcantara trim, this is also an animal-free steering wheel material, really soft and nice, and also plushed underneath. So when you push it, it's also soft underneath, really cool. And here the seats, this is the base Alcantara trim, means fabric inside, Alcantara outside. Optional, you would get everything in Alcantara also on the inside. We can also show you pictures from DS8 and some leatherette on the outside. Both very nice. The main difference is also that in the optional Alcantara trim, you also have the seat ventilation for the microfiber seats. And that's best in comfort and climate comfort, because it's already better in the passive ventilation than if you have also active ventilation is cool. What you also can activate, I can soon show it to you here in the infotainment. These seats here, when you have the comfort package, also include a neck warmer. Sorry, a neck warmer. Not warning, like to warm something up. A neck warmer with M. And here you can see it's like you can see it above the DS logo, which is illuminated. There we go. This is where the hot air would come out. I cannot show that to you, or maybe hold the microphone against that you can hear that, because when it's kind of like hot in the studio here, or it's like 27 degrees Celsius in the studio here because of all the lights and the sun outside, although it's cold outside, it doesn't work when it's not colder than 21 degrees. So then it will not work. It's a definitely interesting feature. And the steering wheel up and down, in and out. So you can also move that like this. And I would tell you more about the cockpit right now. So this is where I would close the door, then reach over and then, but I mean, it's actually fine, you know. This is like where this hidden design somewhat also works. Let's take it that way. So you sit higher than in the DS8. But you have a little bit more, let's say, non-SUV seating position if you compare it to the predecessor DS7. So I think it's somewhat in between. This how you hold onto the steering wheel, you can get used to it. Let's take it that way. But it's also a little bit different than a normal steering wheel. That's for sure. Digital instruments, zoom on needs that. Like some fabric alike covering on the dashboard. Then more in this Alcantara trim. Subtle integration of the ambient lighting, also then this brushed chrome style for the decal elements. So they use a lot of nice materials, pretty cool in the interior styling. The whole cockpit really looks pretty stunning, I have to say. And then the glove box here is smoothly dampened. Interior materials, let's see if these ones will be final. About controlling everything, well, you have some hotkeys here in the lower part. This, for example, getting to the vehicle functions, and this one then will deactivate some of the functions here, like speed warning, blah, 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 and so on. There's actually a good hotkey. Microfiber also here for this inductive charging pad, which seems to be also ventilated. And then we have the integrated shifting lever right here. Some buttons, for example, for the drive mode selection, Sport, Normal, Eco, for example. Then with nice clicking here, this is a cup holder, which is not adaptive though. Split middle armrest. This is really soft here for your elbow. I like that. And then you have space underneath. This even goes deep in there, and then very deep in there, you can also activate the climatization there. So there's like a wheel you can turn where there comes like some cool air. Yeah, there's also like snowflake symbol indeed. Yeah. So there we go, and also nice closing sound as for that. I do miss manual climate buttons. You do have to do that all in the screen here with plus and minus. But everything else you can more or less easily find. Then the driver POV, once again here with this like volume control here on the steering wheel. Left side for the cruise control. Then we have the digital instruments, which look kind of fancy, I would say. You can also have like a map view in there. That's also quite cool. And then here, the infotainment system, really horizontal, widescreen format. You can also activate the neck warmer, for example, when the temperature conditions are met. You can also activate the heated steering wheel, heated seats, and so on. So this is also possible. Neck heater in 3 levels even. You also have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. This is the car internal map, which is maybe not the best one to use. And then here, this is possibly like a plus and minus for the climate control. And this is the vehicle function hotkey, but pressing and holding it will deactivate certain functions. You can here set this one up, and there will also be like the speed chime thing will be there in the final software version, that you can deactivate all of the stuff by pressing and holding that quickly. And here you can see right side, for example, Waze map, and then also the Waze map is integrated here in the instruments. Works with Apple Maps and Waze in Apple CarPlay, or with Google Maps with Android Auto. And this is, by the way, here we can change the digital instruments to normal view, or then also to this map view. And me as a viewer, I was waiting for this segment with Leah as always. And then here we have something else to show you, because this is like a lower area you can slide open with additional cup holders and USB-C charging. These cup holders are adaptive. However, when you now think about that the driver would pull out something there, next to that bridge. So this would be rather maybe like replacement beverages where the passenger helps and then puts it in this top compartment here. Yeah, maybe not the most practical solution. We know that already from DS8. Oh, we have a lot of handles on top, I see. When I'm driving too fast again, then Leah can hold on tight. You're driving too fast. Yeah, exactly. Then rear seats. My favorite thing is that even the rear doors are fully covered here with Alcantara. This why is also my favorite trim. And then leatherette insert here. And even the door pocket in the lower part has a fabric insert. Not here, but in the bottom, actually. So that's pretty cool. Then the rear seats, Isofix on the outsides each. And this is the base Alcantara once again with the fabric inside and Alcantara outside. And here would be the same logic. If you go for the optional Alcantara package with the seat cooling in the front, then you would have a full Alcantara also here on the rear with some leatherette accentuations. Then let's pull out this cup holders. They're also somewhat adaptive, let's take it that way. And this is then also the separate ski hatch that would be possible. Now the big question is, of course, about the comfort and the space we have here. So first of all, as for the headroom, this is the panoramic roof, goes all the way. It has a thermal protection, even says there in letterings. Yes, so there won't be all the sun going through, like from the heat. But you could also go for a fixed roof if you say you're living in a very hot, area, and the fixed roof will always be colder, no matter what thermal insulation there is there. So you can pick that at least. Here then, this version with 1A9 602. So it's interesting because they made these cutouts here. I still have enough headroom, so that's fine. Then legroom, when I'm driving as a tall person, also still works here for 4 or 5 tall adults. And you can see my feet. It is an SUV, so it's not as bad as in the DS8. So my feet are still already quite high. But since it's an SUV that stands higher, like in the DS8 sedan, it would be rather like this. There's always a problem of electric platform sedans that they somewhere have to put the battery. So, but here in the SUV, it's already better. And if you would have the petrol 48-volt mild hybrid version, then these foot garages would be 3 centimeters lower. Also interesting to know. But the coolest thing, once again, you're covered in Alcantara here, and the seat comfort itself is decent. Yeah, the only thing like EV typically that my feet a little bit higher, but definitely better than in the DS8 then. So comfort-wise in the rear, this would be even somewhat better. If you compare the previous generation DS7, this one here now has longer wheelbase. So from the 7 centimeters, it got longer, 3 inches. 5 centimeters of that went into the longer wheelbase, that you also have some more space in the rear. Now the trunk or the boot here is hidden underneath the button, 560 liters. Let's take a look at the measurements. It's 1.40 meters in width. This one fits in underneath vertically, no problem, but you have also more space underneath. And you can also, it's for a charging cable for example, because as you saw there's no trunk, and you can also set it to a lower stage here. The normal length of the trunk, it's also almost 1.40 meters. Then we can also remove this topper. Oh, Leah already removed the first one to make it easier for me. There we go. And then the height here is about 30 inches or 77 centimeters. That's it. And you can see here I can also individually fold the middle one, or also a 2/3, 1/3 split. That's also possible. And the total length, this is here then about 68 inches or 1.73 meters. So I think a good, well usable space. About the pricing. So the current DS7 will be somewhat similar than the new one in the petrol, mild hybrid thing, about 50,000 euros. If we go to the electric version, the DS8, the brother in the sedan style, starts at about 60,000 euros. So this will be similar, maybe a little bit below that. And then you can add some 15 to maximum 20K of extra equipment. So the overall range will then be 50 to somewhat under 80,000 euros, between the petrol and then EV, biggest battery, highest trim, like a rough estimate of the pricing. It is somewhat a problem because then, towards the higher range, they already compete with a little bit bigger vehicles and also Audi, BMW, Mercedes and so on. However, they have unique selling point in exterior, interior design. They also have good material, especially like the Alcantara trim is the nicest one. I would pick probably the one with the optional, also with seat cooling Alcantara, which you know from the DS8. It's also available here, as I said, just not we seen here today. But this is probably the nicest one, that you have cooled Alcantara seats, cooled microfiber seats. Very unique, definitely. And yeah, they also have like these light signature playing and so on. And of course, interesting that they really play between the segments size-wise. So if you want to find a parking spot better in the city and so on, this will be a little bit easier than with this one in comparison to some of the bigger competitors. Tell me, what do you think? And now it's time to either compare the DS8 or maybe go to the, so to speak, everyone like orients to this vehicle now technology-wise, the BMW iX3.